right, welcome to Tuesday at 2 o'clock, tips and tricks. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties. Please hold. All right, so as you can tell, today at Be So Creative, we are learning some new things. We are exploring new horizons. We are growing new brain cells. We're getting amazingly good at lots of different things, and it's really, really nice sometimes to relax into the comfort of fabric and needle and thread when technology has been our wrestle for the day. What you are seeing right now is Marco trying to get the camera to figure out how to point at the right thing. So give us one more moment. Woo! Here we go, guys. Taking a quick tour through the space. All right. Welcome back. So glad to have you. So glad we could be here. All right, let's go ahead and move the sign. And we are going to take a moment to backtrack and look at bias binding. I showed you. Marco, can you look at the table with us now that you figured out how to get high? This is our bias triangle. You remember we sewed the seam here. We gave ourselves a notation that this is 1 and 1. Here is 2, and here is 2. So we're flipping that back around again. And 1, let me turn it so it's the same orientation for last time. Here's 1 and 1. 2 is going to come to 2's house. 2 is coming to 1's house, and 2 is coming to 1's house. Then we offset and we start our pinning. So this is just a quick recap of how to make continuous bias binding. If you didn't see the original, please go back and check out our YouTube channel at Be So Creative, NM as in New Mexico, on the YouTube channel, and you will find the original instructions. But what I wanted to do is take just a moment and show you. Remember I told you that the fabric did not need to be square? What you are seeing here is 3/8 of a yard that I have done that corner cut off, and I've pieced it on so that we've got our 1 and 1 sewn together here. Here is 2 and here is 2. When 2 comes to 1's house and 2 comes to 1's house, do you see this giant excess? Becky, are you able to get that? Yeah. Awesome. I wanted to show you a little bit how awkward that is and how much of a tail we've got here. Don't worry. All that will happen is it just keeps flipping around and flipping around. So we end up with this wrapped around and around. So if we want to shift it, we're just going to shift it, and we will keep, everything will get one space moved over. But I wanted you to see that really, really long piece. So showing you again, this is how we've got it pieced. We're going to fold side 2 to 1's house, and then the other way, and it's just going to flip and flip, remembering that we're going to need to offset by 1. Okay. But for the title of our program, I wanted to talk to you about walking feet. And you see, I've collected several from the store today. And in all, we've all got a body, a bigger body. Here I have the Bernina brand. Here's our Baby Lock brand. This one is the Eversewn brand. And they all have the same kind of big body. This little guy is my friend from home. They have this lever that rises and falls, and they have plastic feed dogs or grippy feed dogs, all of them. As the lever rises and falls, falls, those extra feed dogs on top will touch down with the feed dogs that are coming on your machine. I just wanted to make sure that you all knew and understood how to use these guys. Are they easily seen, or do we need a background? Let's give you a background. Okay, so the Bernina one in this nice box here comes with both a left and a right. Our Baby Lock also has a left and a right, but our Everso just has two different shapes. So this one is going to be useful to ride along surfaces, whereas this one is going to be useful to like hit in ditches. So in order for you to understand how to use these guys, what they're going to do is they're going to give us access to a much larger seam allowance gauge than our foot can give us. So Becky, go ahead and back out for a minute, and we're going to talk big picture while I show you this little guy that I did. So this is probably my only second ever quilting on the sewing machine quilt, because I tend to prefer to hand quilt. And if we look, you can see that I've got a wide space. Right in here is good. We've got a wider space, and then we've got a narrower space. And what I did is I set my foot gauge for this wider space. Excuse me, I should show you this way, for this wider one. And then I came back later and wandered in between. If you look closely, you will see lots of evidence that this is my very first ever working on this large. I've done, what are they called? Placemats before, but this is the first one that I've done like as a whole quilt. And I learned a couple of things. One, you know those rubber gloves? Yeah, they're cool, use them. Number two, practicing small and getting bigger is a good choice. But mostly, I wanted you to look at the gauging on this, and we'll come back to that in just a second. So, back to our little guys right here. This is the Bernina foot. And this one happens to be the foot for one of the older machines, but they work under the same principle. You see that we've got this hole that runs right through the whole direction, so I can put on either a left or a right-sided bar. But you'll notice that it's hanging limp, it swings. You notice I can pull it right back out again. So for this one, which is the case both with the Baby Lock and the Bernina, there's this extra little tool that sits on the back. So what I want you to notice is we've got this big hole here, we've got this big screw here, and that whole piece rests over the top. The pin goes through that, and now I actually have more resistance. Let me release the screw back here. I have a little more resistance as I thread my way through. Come on, little foot. And things need to line up. There we go. Release the screw some more. Things need to line up all the way across. Then, as I tighten my screw back here, now this is not going anywhere. So I can set myself up so that my needle hits right here in the middle, and I can have a 3-inch spacing. Or I can release the tension, draw in, and I could just have a 1-inch spacing. So whatever it is that I wanted to do. And the advantage of the Bernina and the Baby Lock feet is that I can travel across. Let's look at the quilt again. Okay. Let's back up just a bit more, Becky. So, knowing that this was one of my first quilts, and because this is wool batting, I could not do that Beau Nash trick that I showed you because the wool batting specifically says don't iron me. So I started from this corner and I worked my way across, and then from this corner and across, and this corner and across, all the way down to the edge. Then I came back here and I worked my way this way, which means that on one side I wanted the left facing bar, and on the other side I wanted the right facing bar, so that I could line up with the line that I actually had. It's important to start in the middle so that as I push fabric along, or as I find that things shift a little bit, I'm shifting everything the same way, because otherwise if I'm shifting across, I will get puckers. So my right facing and my left facing little bars, yay, hooray bars. That was pretty much what I wanted to cover as far as that goes, but I also wanted to point out that when you purchase one of these sets, oh, I wanted to show you my little guy. Where's my old friend? Here is my old friend and my old bar. And you'll see I don't have the screw on mine. Mine just snaps in. And so I can pull it out, and looking at mine, I have a maximum of a 2-inch width on what I can do because of the length of my bar. And so if you tend to be somebody who really likes that wider expanse, then you're going to want to look into getting another bar. The other thing is I've cheated before. And what I do is I pop it in on the wrong side, but instead of letting this bar rest all the way down on the fabric, I just keep it up a little, and I can use it as an eyeball guide, which is close enough for the kind of work that I've been trying to do. I also wanted to introduce you to my old friends. This is my sewing machine from my house, and we have been getting along together for about 15 years. And my old friend is starting to feel like is tired and ready to be replaced. So back in the old days when I lived other places, that's where this machine came from. But don't you worry, shortly Izzy and I will be figuring out which sewing machine's coming home with me. But I wanted to demonstrate for those who are brand new to walking feet how they actually get put on the machine. So we're going to begin right here with this little screw on the side. That is going to release my foot and what I call the ankle. So this whole piece needs to come off. We set it aside, and what I've got here is this shank. So let's go backwards. Back here is the brace for the foot. So these little claw pieces that wrap around need to fit right onto that edge. And in order for the walking part of the foot to work, this bar also needs to sit up on this needle rest right here. So that is where my little screw comes back in. Thank you. Okay, so that's where mine screws in, and once everything is tightened down, now if you watch, you'll see these little feet. Oh, we've got to drop the foot. Okay, you'll see that as the needle rises, it lifts the foot and adjusts where these guys are sitting, and you see it lift up and move in time with the walking feet. Okay, so that is my old friend at home and how that guy goes on. This one is going to work very similarly. This one is a low shank universal walking foot. Again, we're going to go over the screw that holds the needle into place, and we're going to be on the shank that the foot holds in. That is correct. This guy is not sitting on top of the needle bar. This one is that's gonna like actually grab hold on this one. And this one is a low shank. So once you put your foot down, if you measure from the screw to the bottom of the plate of your sewing machine, if that is 1/2 inch, you have a low shank machine. This is the right kind of tool for you. This one is our baby lock. Again, we are looking at over that little needle screw, not resting on top of the bar, but hanging on to it. And we are looking at the screw that holds the foot into place right in here. And you'll notice it's a pretty low shank, so we've got, that one's a lower foot. But if you look at the Bernina, notice that there's a screw option here, but the Bernina has this whole ankle part of its feet. Bernina almost always makes things with that whole ankle part. So back on my machine, my machine can't do it. So I have this bar. Bernina doesn't have a bar. Bernina has a little cone that will nest right into this little cone. And so that's how this guy is going to go on. Last thing I want to show you about these is the different soles. And both the Baby Lock and the Bernina has these different soles. We have this guy. Give me a second to pop it off. Use my screwdriver. Nope, it's good. I'm so glad you're here today, Becky. Okay, so we're going to use the screwdriver. Nope. There's a screw you have to turn on the other side. Not on the sole. Yep. Okay, Becky's going to help us today. This screw? Okay, so Becky, flip your hand around. There we go.
And it fits right in between this one and this side.
Okay, so let's go back just a second and make sure you guys can see it. Okay, this little screw. Yep. We're going to make sure that that's a little looser, which helps if you turn it the loosening direction. You can see in here that the foot is widening. Okay, and now we've got enough room to lay that guy out. Okay, so what I want you to see is this one this foot is going to give you that center mark so that you can guide yourself, because it tells you where the needle is going to hit as long as your needle is set correctly. This one is open so that you're going to be able to see what's coming and be able to maneuver things differently. And this one actually has the ridge on it. This is going to be your stitch in the ditch quilting foot option. Both the Baby Lock and the Bernina feet come with these options. So once you're ready to make your choice, this guy sits back into place and then screw it back in again. Okay? I won't take time to do that right now, but I wanted you guys to see that and have an idea of what else you can do with your walking feet. Give me just a moment to clear the space, and then I have some show and tell for you. So, come back up to my face for a minute. Hi. I work another job over at Cruces Creatives, which is a makerspace in Las Cruces. A makerspace is like a gym, only instead of getting access to exercise equipment, you're getting access to making things. One of the things that happens there a lot is that we get the donations from the creative territories of individuals who have passed on. Recently, there's been a woman who's been bringing in her mother's things, and her mother was an amazing craftsperson. Her stitch work was fine and really, really consistent and really, really good. And she brought this in the other day. And I just wanted to share it with you. These guys are all vintage, hand-pieced, beautiful, beautiful pieces. I don't know if we can, let's see if I can find you a high contrast one. I want you to see her stitch work. Can we get in there? Is it better if I hold it up? See that? She drew all of those individual little babies on there and stitched them. And then they came to Cruces Creatives, and Cruces Creatives knew immediately that these were pieces that should come and live with me. And I brought them to share with you because one of the things that this woman did in her selection of fabric was a mixture of a lot of different kinds of fabric, which makes for an amazing, beautiful quilt, but it also leaves it vulnerable in some places. And this is one that I was particularly concerned about. And I want to show it to you so that you have some ideas on how to work with things yourself. So can you see the open weave of that fabric? That is a place where the batting is likely to come through, and where the quilt itself, because of the gentle nature of these fabrics, may be in danger of being busted open. So my great plan is I'm going to applique these on top of another piece and use that other piece as structure and support. So let me just leave you with a few more of these beautiful, beautiful little guys and say thank you so much for joining us today, again on Tips and Tricks on Tuesday at 2. And thank you so much for being part of our Be So Creative family. We really appreciate your attention and your time. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next time.